An article element, as we know, is a standalone content. So if you pick an article out of a web page, it should make sense all by itself. So in our example here, so if you extract the first article, you can see that it will make sense all by itself without any context. It can be reused anywhere else. So one article element can be nested inside another. For example, if you have a blog post and you want to include a forum post or a newspaper article in it, you can nest it in another article tag. So let's look at another example. So here it doesn't look like it makes sense all on its own, so we can put it into an article. Okay, because maybe in a section element. So the section element is used to section a page. For example, chapters in a book, sections in a thesis, or splitting an About Me page into introduction, interest, and skills. So sections can be used in a page or within an article. In fact, all content within the body element is considered to be within one article. So sections can be nested, one section in another, and sections can also be part of an article, aside, or nav elements. So div and span elements. So the div element, for the div element, the div tag is one you will likely see sprinkled all over an HTML document. So div as the content division element is used to define a division or a section of the document. So div is not a semantic element. However, it is commonly used when there isn't a better semantic sectioning element to use. So it's like a generic container that can hold a variety of elements such as paragraphs, images, links, tables. It can be used to group elements for styling purposes. So you can do this by assigning an ID or class attribute to the div element and then applying styles which will affect all elements in the div container. So it should only be used if you cannot use any other semantic element in its. So in this example, we can see the div elements here. So let's take a look at these blocks of code at CodePen. So here's an example of how you can use a div element within your HTML code. So if you want to style all code snippets in your HTML document a certain way, you can place your code in a div container and apply styles collectively to it using the class attribute. So while we are on the topic of the div tag and semantic elements, one more important that comes in handy is the span element. So how do we use the span? So let's take a look at some examples first. So what happens when you do not find an appropriate tag to use? So in this example, if you want to change the color of this part, the ABC company, so should you use the paragraph tag? So if we try this, so this will be the edited version of this code right here. So this is the opening tag, so with a class attribute, and this is the closing tag. So this will only change this part, the ABC company. So the result of that, so is this. So if you design your class, the company class, on which it will make the text blue, so this will be the output. So what happens here is that the ABC company part goes to another line. So this happens because the P tag creates a new line. So this HTML code here is also invalid. So we'll see shortly why. So how about if we use the span element? So let's take a look at that. So if we use the span element for this code, so if we edit this code and use the span element, this will be the resulting HTML code. So here is our opening tag with a class attribute, and this is the closing tag. So we are expecting that if this class company, it will make the text blue, then the text in between, so which is ABC company, should be changed into blue, or the font will be changed into blue. And of course, this is the result or the output for this line of code here. And you see that this part did not go to another line. Unlike when you use a paragraph tag. So when can you use the span tag element? So you can use the span element when adding styling to part of a sentence or inline. Also when manipulating part of a sentence using JavaScript, and when there isn't a more appropriate HTML element that applies. So you can use span and div to add attributes such as class and ID. So like div, span is not a semantic element. So you should only use span if no other semantic element is appropriate. Div and span serve the same purpose but should be applied at different levels. So div is a block level element for a block of space, while span is an inline element or for within a line or phrase. So what is the difference between div and span? So they are both considered generic elements that don't have any meaning, but div is a block level elements, and while span is an inline elements. So when we say block level elements, it is used within the body of the page. So these occupy a block of space and start a new line. They usually have empty spaces above and below the blocks. They can contain inline elements and other block element block level elements. So other examples are the paragraph tag and the headings tag from H1 to H6. And the inline element, as the name suggests, are in the line. So they can start anywhere in a line. So they can only contain data like text or other inline elements. So examples are emphasis tag and strong tags. So you should note that there are several other semantic inline elements such as for abbreviation, cite, and code. So that should be used in preference to span where possible. So why do paragraph tags don't work? So in the first example here, we said that nesting two paragraph elements was invalid HTML. Because after reading an opening tag, if the browser sees another P or any other block level elements including div, it will automatically close the first open P tag for you. So nesting one paragraph tag in another is not valid because the browser will consider them as two paragraphs, one after the other. So even though you close the paragraphs with two closing tags at the end, such as with this, they are ignored.